an Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Spoil Me, covering Veronica Mars, Season 2, Episode 18, I Am God. In this episode, Veronica is troubled by strange dreams, the ghosts of classmates who died in the bus crash, who are all very demanding for dead people, and she is starting to, I think, put together the same clues that I am. I guess we'll see. Welcome to Spoil Me. Welcome to the show, everybody. I am Natasha. Huge thank you to Nancy for commissioning this episode. Nancy commissioned this coverage, but she also commissioned this as a voyeur episode, which means that people got to come and hang out with me while I watched this, which was fun. I always like doing those, even though it does mean that I have to wait to watch the next one. I do like having people hanging out with me while I'm watching. So yeah, thank you very much, Nancy, for that. And I am just really okay, so to get into my initial thoughts that I didn't really have a chance to I didn't have a chance to express my surprise while I was watching this live. The last episode ends with, Thumper getting basically buried alive in a pile of falling rubble when they blow up the stadium. And I really expected the next episode to open with the discovery of his body. I really thought that we would move right into Veronica's reaction to finding out that Thumper was dead. I have this happen frequently with this show. And I don't know if it's a conscious choice on their part or if it's a byproduct of the seasons being as long as they are. But they will frequently set something up that's kind of a big deal. And I will expect to be coping with that next time. And it turns out to be at least a full episode before it's brought up again. Sometimes 2 or 3, and I guess what we could say here is that Thumper isn't going to get found right away, right? It's not until they start to bulldoze everything away and cart it all off that they will eventually find him. So it makes sense that he's not discovered immediately, But it is such a strange thing that I don't feel like I'd noticed how much of a pattern it is until this time because of what a huge sort of cliffhanger that is. There's just somebody actively, a character that we like Weevil, actively seeking out a death for another character in a place that we can see it. It's not, we're finding out about some violence done afterwards and we're not sure who did it. We watched a character that we like essentially kill somebody. That's a big fucking deal. And I'm a little bit bummed that this next episode does not deal in that at all. Because I'm extremely invested in what's going on there. I really want to know what everybody else thinks. I want to know if Weevil's crew realizes what happened. If there's something that Weevil plans to do to out Thumper. Because if he's going to have Thumper killed, it can't just remain, he disappeared somewhere. He has to be able to prove to everybody in his crew that this guy was fucking a traitor. He killed one of our people. He was dealing with the Fitzpatricks. It's not enough for Thumper just to be dead, right? Because if that's what you leave it as, they will interpret Thumper as being either taken out by Weevil, which is him being a traitor, or they will interpret it as somebody came at our crew and we need to protect our our own and show them that we do not tolerate this shit, which, you know, who knows who they would think was the one behind that. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that because, like, when this episode begins, it starts off right away with Veronica, like, you know, talking to the school counselor, and it is a weird moment to have this like dream sequence and everything that I didn't like. This is okay. So what they're doing is they have the bus crash storyline, which is interesting. I'm not trying to say that I don't care about that, because it would suck if I didn't care about the bus crash, like, at all. But to be jumping back and forth, this is sort of what happens when you're in like Song of Ice and Fire and you do like a really great chapter in one character's POV and then it switches POVs and you're like, oh, come on. And it's not that the other character's necessarily bad, although there are some that are. It's just that you got very into whatever was going on in wherever you were. So I care about the bus crash and I want forward movement on that. There were several episodes, like around, I think 4, 5, 6 in the season where it felt like the bus crash was barely even being brought up or talked about. But the fact that the whole episode circles around these dreams that she's having, I thought that this was going to be something that got kind of interrupted by the reality eventually of there having been another murder committed, essentially. But yeah, Veronica is having these apparently recurring dreams that only happened, or that only started happening, I think she said like a couple of weeks ago. This has not been a constant thing since this all happened. And she's being brought into the counselor's office to talk about the fact that she has been reprimanded a few times for wearing headphones during class and falling asleep during class. And we find out that, first of all, Veronica is listening to old episodes of the pirate ship, basically podcast. It was like a secret radio show, but it was a precursor to a podcast, basically. She's listening to that and she's falling asleep because she is not sleeping well at night because she keeps having these dreams. And have you guys ever fallen asleep during a class? Because I know people who haven't, and I really want to know how you got through life never having had this happen. And I'm not talking about, like, there are people who show up to class with the full intention of sleeping through it. Like, you know those people. There are folks out there that really do not care. And they have perfected the art of sleeping and still managing to, like, just about get a passing grade. But when I have fallen asleep in class, it wasn't until college. I felt so guilty because my teacher was just really nice. And it wasn't even like the subject wasn't interesting, but it was like a mid-afternoon class and I was in such a fucking challenging subject. And I kept, like, you know, being up until like 4 o'clock in the morning and then having to be in for like a 7:30, 8 o'clock class. And I couldn't keep my eyes open. And I feel so bad looking back on it. I just really, really wanted to, like, I really wanted her to know that I wasn't falling asleep because she sucked at her job. But it has got to be so demoralizing as a teacher to be out here having planned a lesson, really trying to get your kids invested, and then you look up and one of them is literally asleep. Like, oh my God, y'all. That's like if I were doing a panel at a convention, you know, and saw somebody was asleep. Like, it's not even that I'm going to take it personally immediately, but it's just going to be like, oh God, really? You know, like, you really can't help but be like, what did I do to make it so easy to fall asleep? So anyway, the woman that she's speaking with is her father's ex. And she winds up seeing her dad running around a little bit later down the hallway wearing his like going on a date best suit. And she assumes that these two are rekindling something with one another. And it turns out that she is super duper wrong about that. There's a whole other thing going on that her father is investigating. But we will get back to this a little bit later. So she is accused of having ripped down somebody's poster. And it turns out, it seems, that she didn't rip it down out of like a protest, like whatever it was that it looked like. She just wanted the photos of the different students on like in the crash, because that's what this is. And she likes to be able to use them for reference. And she is explaining the fact that she's having these dreams and handing out these photos and explaining who everybody is. And she talks about Rhonda, who called her friend Michelle right before the crash, which that winds up coming up a little bit later. And she says, and Peter, who generously posted the details of his unrequited gay love on NeptunePirateShip.com. So now we're like this. And then there's Meg. And she says, actually, you might be able to help. What do you know about a janitor named Lucky? And the counselor doesn't seem to know what that means. Like, there's no real, like, moment of, oh, why is she asking about Lucky? She just says why. And then we go into a dream that Veronica had where she is in the bus underwater and there are fish swimming by the window. And Meg is there wearing a t-shirt that says baby on board. And she is asking her about this guy, Lucky. And it turns out that this dude was a janitor at the school. And he was a veteran. And he was very religious. And her family was trying to set her up with him. And she says that it wasn't even that they were overt enough to say they were just trying to set her up. They just kept inviting him to dinner all the time. And, they would seat him next to her and have him talk about like his exploits and, basically try and play him up as like a real badass hero for America. He'd quote the Bible. They'd point out how great he was. Fun. And Veronica says, but you thought he was creepy. And at this point, Megan says, were you reading my emails? And I love this, that like, you can take this dream sequence stuff to be either the genuine like spirits of people who have been wronged using Veronica to try and get justice and actually appearing to her in a way that is like, something that she can interpret. Or you can have it be that Veronica is figuring things out on her own while she is asleep. And it's all information that maybe she could have put together anyway. But this dream, I am really so tired, guys, of these like fucking spam calls that come through. Oh my God. And you could make the argument that most of the information in these dreams is not something that Veronica necessarily wouldn't have known at all. I am not entirely positive if that holds up regarding her figuring out like the album thing, but we'll get there and talk about that. But even if this is just her own brain, it shows that she feels guilty about having invaded Megan's privacy, even though it's for a good cause, she definitely has some misgivings about doing it. And Meg is just like, you know, my sister gave those files to Duncan, not to you. Of course, you just took them because since I'm dead, I guess I don't get any privacy, do I? And it is a kind of a brutal scene. Like, honestly, Megan trying to have a conversation initially, just that's like on the surface, a chat between girls who you forget weren't really friends by this point, you know, and then sort of launching back into, no, but you're kind of the enemy. I keep forgetting how like adversarial things were at that point. And Meg says, look, my parents think Lucky's a saint because he sings hymns with his eyes closed and he helped my dad move an air conditioner, which I swear to God, guys, I LOL'd at that point. Because there is, in some families, no higher, like, proof that a man is a good guy than the fact that he did manual labor for you. I don't know what that's about, but y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Like, dudes who build a thing, a guy who, like, fixes a car or helps you move or something. To a lot of people, that is shorthand for he's a good person. And I just find that so amusing. It's like, I was trying to think of it after I laughed at that joke. I was trying to think what is a comparable thing for women that is like a shorthand for she's a good person. And the only thing that I could think was like, she baked something for me. And that doesn't really have the same like power to it. There's just something about when she said, and he moved an air conditioner, I was like, I instantly understood what her parents' view of him is. But he's just a janitor at the high school he graduated from who buys beer for guys like Logan to hang on to his glory days. And when we meet this guy a little bit later, he seems extremely shady. So I wonder what the fuck was going on there. And Veronica is talking about the booth in the hallway that this girl set up, Michelle, who is trying to raise money to buy a full-page spread for the bus crash victims in the yearbook. Now, guys, not for nothing, but like, if there were a crash that killed 10 students, dozens, however many it turns out they are, you don't think that the fucking yearbook would just have a full page dedicated to these people? Like, that just seems, the fact that she has to raise money to pay for this memorial insert in this yearbook is cold to me. That feels fucked up. Like, that is, that would be just an expectation of mine. If I were the parent of one of these kids and nobody had taken upon themselves to do this, and I got the yearbook, which you bet I would fucking get, and they didn't have a huge memorial page in that yearbook, I would be so fucking livid. Like, it is just bonkers to me that she's out here and she's talking about, I raised $200 on my first day. And I'm like, how much are they charging you for something that they should be just doing automatically? This is crazy to me. There are some comments on the side here. I agree. There's no way they wouldn't already have one in real life, at least. Nancy says, my freshman year in high school, 3 upperclassmen died in a car accident. They each got a memorial page. Yeah, see, exactly. So, like, I understand for the sake of this episode that this is a thing that somebody is, like, having to sort of spearhead. But it's weird that it has to be money. Like, I would have understood if there were a yearbook girl who was, like, trying to gather information on each of these people and, you know, being like a little bit pushy about it or something and getting people's attention that way. But it's really strange to me that it's about the money to pay for this thing that should just be a given. But yeah, Veronica is like, you really need to be talking to that girl, Michelle, because she is a little bit intense. If I raise enough, I might be able to get one of those audio chips, like the kind that play happy birthday when you open the card. It's a bit much, but wouldn't it be great to hear them laughing and happy? And I'm thinking when she says that, I'm like, girl, what are you talking about? And I was so glad immediately the counselor is like, what does she mean laughing and happy? Which I don't like. When she said that, I can't lie, that sounded so creepy to me. And it turns out that her friend called her earlier and left a message, and they're all laughing in the background. But I swear to God, I was like, girl, what are you talking about? Like, she just sounds like she's like imagining shit, you know? Anya says, I think it's not having a memorial page, but paying yearbooks for the family of the kids that died, but it still should be a given. The music chip sounds creepy to me too. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, it should be a given that the parents of children who died do not have to pay for a yearbook. That should definitely be a thing that the school just provides as a courtesy. But, you know, I guess I could see that. So yeah, it turns out that this tape that she plays is a recording that has Dick's voice on it, which Veronica cannot figure out because Dick was with her, or was not with her, but was with the kids that were in the limo that got sent back. So it's not making any sense to her, and she winds up figuring out a little bit later that it was a voicemail that what's her face, Rhonda, was playing out loud. And it turns out that he was screwing around, and he did not like want anybody else to know about it. So she was kind of like playing this out loud in order to embarrass him, I guess. I don't really know what her goal was here, because honestly, there is something about the idea of being somebody's dirty little secret that to me is so humiliating that I would not want everybody else to know that that person considered me to be something worth keeping secret. But, you know, I guess it's like social capital. I just don't really like the mental process behind deciding to do something like this. To me, reflects worse on the person doing it than the person it's about. But, you know, I'm also extremely prideful, so that's probably part of it. So we have the dream with Rhonda, and she is on the phone and saying, I can't believe that you bailed on the trip without telling me. What about next weekend? And then Veronica like comes awake, and her dad comes in the room and is just like, hey, is everything okay? And she just mentions that it was a bad dream. And he says, did you watch House of Wax again? You know that Hilton girl gives you nightmares, y'all. When I tell you I hollered at that line, I fucking loved that so much. Like, does Paris Hilton know that they made that crack? Somebody had to tell her, right? I'm sure that, like, on Twitter, people were hitting her up like, oh shit, they dissed you. Let's see. Peter Ferrer. He's looking through the files, and he realized that this is all of the kids from the bus that she's reading about right before she goes to sleep. Like, no wonder she's having nightmares. And he realizes that she snuck onto the bus, the evidence bus. And I can't believe that she tells him this. Like, I'm not mad at her about it, and I'm glad that she's being open with her dad. But damn, like, it is really something to admit to him that you were crawling around a crime scene. And this was in the CD player, and how did it get here? I willed it. Oh, girl. And she took a photo of graffiti on the back of one of the seats that says, I am God. And she gets really zeroed in on this because it is not only, does it say I am God, but there's a picture of tombstones, gravestones. And there's like 9 of them, I think, which is enough for each of the kids that were on the bus until Veronica got herself off. Oh God. Not like that, you guys. Shut up. Ugh, I hate it. So she is just assuming, let's see. Oh yeah. Rachel says the fact that Paris was an ep in season 1 makes it even funnier to me. Exactly. I think that's the joke. She was apparently difficult on set. Oh, okay, Nancy. I didn't realize that she was like, I mean, it makes sense. There's nothing like, she's obviously gonna be spoiled just because of her upbringing. But then the fact that she's not like an actress, I would imagine she doesn't know how it works, and it's probably pretty demanding, right? That's just gonna happen like when somebody doesn't understand where they're at and how things are done. But yeah, I understand totally why Veronica sees this graffiti and just assumes that this is somebody who's like, oh yeah, I am the one who's going to kill my classmates and therefore I am like God. But it seems to kind of be nothing later because there is an album cover that has these gravestones on it, and it says I am God. That's the title of the album. So it may still be a thing that like comes up later and we're like, oh, they still did mean it. But it also may just be somebody like drawing something while they're listening. And this whole like reveal is something that she winds up spending a little bit too much energy on because of, you know, the nature of what it is revealed to be. But like I said, it makes total sense. So there's this thing going on this episode with Wallace and Logan. I don't know what to make of it. Logan is supposed to be working with Dick, and they are meant to be doing that project where you drop an egg from a given height and you have to construct something to prevent it from breaking. And I don't know about y'all, but like I did this when I was in like 7th grade. So it's crazy to me that this is a senior science project. Like it definitely should not be. But sure. I guess it could be a senior science project if it's like, well, we know that you're all coasting anyway, so we'll give you something easy to do. And we can still act like we're working. But like, what it comes down to is it's better than rolling in the AV cart and making everybody watch a video, right? Like, I guess. But him and Dick are fucking really provoking their teacher, Mr. Wu. Mr. Wu? And Dick even makes a couple of like racist jokes. Like, I just hate Dick so very much. And finally, their teacher is just like, you know what? Fuck you guys. You're not working together. I don't like the two of you like in a pair at all. I don't need to be doing this. So he pairs off Dick with this girl whose name I am already forgetting. And Wallace winds up being paired with Logan, and they wind up like kind of becoming a little bit buddy-buddy. And it's weird because, is it Angie? Thank you, Agnes. It's weird because, like, I don't really see the moment in which they become friendly. Like, there's a part at the end where Wallace says something to Veronica about how maybe she should go a little bit easier on Logan. And I cannot detect the spot in the episode where Wallace begins to feel a little bit more positively towards him. Like, they are working together on this project. Logan keeps kind of like needling Wallace. And Wallace is making it really clear that he does not like Logan. That he... Basically, Logan made an impression because he was breaking Veronica's headlights with a crowbar the first time they met. And as far as Wallace is concerned, he doesn't like... He has not changed his opinion on her. And I don't... Like, the only thing that... Yeah, exactly. Anya's is saying, I think it's because Wallace saw the documentary about the Eccles family. And, like, I guess... But that's not at all convincing to me as a viewer. Like, there is nothing in that documentary that he didn't already know about intimately. Like, that documentary is an outside perspective on a thing that he has to have talked with Veronica directly about, right? Like, he has to have heard from her firsthand the harrowing story of being locked in a fucking refrigerator and like somebody trying to burn her alive. So why does seeing this documentary suddenly make him feel a little bit more sympathetic? You knew about all of this. And regardless of the fact that, like, you also know that the two of them were like hooking up for a while there, there's like, I understand you maintaining your impression from when he was breaking her headlights, and I'm not mad at you for that. I'm still like, that combined with the fact that he was like, you know, inciting bum fights and is friends with an admitted date rapist. I don't understand why that supposedly made him soften towards Logan at all. It's really like, to me, I feel like I see what the show is trying to do in terms of like getting him to understand a little bit better. But this is not the thing to do it with. Giving him information via a TV like special that isn't information he wouldn't have had already. It's not only information he would have had, it's a worse version of information that he has already. Just doesn't work for me at all. And I just don't really buy the fact that that would be enough for Wallace to like suddenly be like, oh, this guy really has it kind of tough. Like, you know, as somebody who grew up a minority and not rich in a rich town, I have a really hard time buying that this would cause him to feel sympathy versus just be like, well, that's tough, but also you're white and you're rich, you're going to be fine. Nancy says, being reminded of all those things, plus the fact that Logan's family's dirty laundry is being aired so publicly and salaciously, like, I guess it just, I don't know. There's just no way that he doesn't know that this is happening already. You know, like, he turns this on the TV and he chooses to stop on it, even though, like, he's hanging out with Logan is the other thing, which I was just like, dude, what are you doing? The two of them are already not getting along super well. And he chooses to pause out of everything on television on that, which just feels like so much of a fucking dig to me. If it's supposed to be, oh, that made him feel bad, that's not how it came across. To me, it was like, oh, I'm going to pause on this to make you uncomfortable and remind you that I know that you're an asshole. You know, that was definitely how I took it in the moment. But whatever. It doesn't, like, in the end, I don't know how much it's going to matter, but I just feel like there was a better way of doing this that the show kind of like took an easy way out that was so easy as to be unclear because it doesn't really make sense. And the egg drop thing is just so, like, it's a weird, I feel like there's supposed to be a metaphor here that I'm not really getting. But the girl, Angie, who is paired up with Dick, there's a really good moment because all he is doing is sexually harassing her, like, constantly. He is so tiresome. And she tells the teacher at one point that Dick did not help with the project at all. And Mr. Wu is like, okay, well, you go ahead and pick out your project there, Dick, and we will drop it and see how it does. And Dick can't figure out which one of the projects is his because he did absolutely nothing on it and so doesn't even know what it looks like, which I just loved that moment so much. Guys, I have a good sense that if you listen to Unspoiled, you were one of the people in group projects who did all the work. Am I wrong? Like, I feel like I tend to attract that type because that was the type that I was, but I may be wrong. But I just, like, I swear to God, I always did, like, at least 60% of the work in a project with 3 people, you know, usually more. Rachel says, haha, not wrong. I hated group projects. I mean, I hated group projects too. That has nothing to do with it. But yeah, I absolutely hated them because I would have to take other people's stupid ideas into account and try and act like I was interested at all in what they were saying they wanted it to be like, even though they had it all wrong. They, like, didn't really understand, like, what the point of the project was supposed to be. They clearly didn't understand the subject, or they didn't understand, like, the way to do a presentation, and they were trying to talk about doing something, like, really boring. And I was just like, if I could have just done this by myself, I could have just done the thing and had it done. But no, I have to, like, weirdly try and incorporate these disparate ideas that don't work at all. And I would get so irritated. And it's funny because, like, the whole point of projects like that is to encourage kids to learn how to work together and compromise. And it just goes to show that I was always not going to be, like, a team player. I am a team player in a mental way where I want everybody to work together. I care about everybody getting their fair share. And I think everybody can have an important role to play. But when it comes to, like, doing a project, I am not a team player at all. I get the idea that I have. It's, in my opinion, a good idea. And I will go with that and I will take action on it. And trying to get slowed down by other people just fucking drives me batty. It's part of why I, like, own the business now that I own, that I do almost by myself, except when I have a co-host on, like, 3 of the shows, you know? So yeah, it is. Let's see. Melanie says, not wrong here either. The compromise was, I'll do it so I can pass and you can profit from that. Like, that's pretty much it, Melanie. Yeah. I'd be like, look, if you guys just shut up and don't try and tell me how to do this, I will do us all the favor of doing a great job so that we can all pass. But just as payment, don't fucking try and give me advice. That's all I require of you, is for you to not try and tell me to do it a different way. And most of the time that worked. Most of the time everybody was fine with being like, all right, cool. Every now and then though, I'd get somebody in the group who was very fucking pushy with their idea, even though they were also an idiot. And that was the part that, like, I couldn't deal. Nancy says, yeah, sure, I'll do all the work if you present it. And then she couldn't pronounce the words. So, oh, Nancy, that makes sense, though. Rachel, oh, you know what I'm saying? Because Melanie says not wrong here either. But Rachel said, haha, not, and then wrong. So I'm not sure if Rachel meant not wrong because I did do all the work. So you're not wrong. Or if she was saying, haha, not, and then you're wrong. I definitely didn't do all the work on group projects. But either way, I just, yeah, this moment is sweet, sweet retribution for those moments, like, it's a nice little fantasy of just being like, yeah, somebody who totally did not do jack shit. And not only did he not do jack shit, he's a douchebag. And those things, I will admit, don't always go together. Somebody could just not do anything on a group project, and I'm not even, like, mad at them about it. It's just, yeah, they didn't do any work. But, you know, they were fine. They're, like, a fine person. They're just kind of, like, not into this subject. They're kind of lazy, whatever. But Dick is, like, such a complete piece of shit that watching him fuck this up so bad. And it results in him having to go to summer school, which, I mean, does it get better than that? I loved it. I was so happy. Fuck that guy. But meanwhile, Angie is in this, like, weird subplot that's going on here. So Veronica winds up getting accepted to Stanford. And it turns out that, like, the scholarship that she's trying to go for is the same scholarship that Angie is trying to go for. Which, seriously, it makes me so mad that she is even eligible. There should really be, like, a family income cutoff that makes it so that Angie isn't eligible to take the funding from a poor student away from them. But that is money that Veronica is kind of relying on to go to school. Now, I said this during the recording. I paused at one point because I don't really buy, like, and it's partially because of, you know, the situation that I am in, and partially because of the year in which this was all recorded, which was what, 2006, 7? I don't even know. But this is during one of the biggest upswings in student loan debt, right? In terms of, like, decades. And the idea that Veronica is acting like if she doesn't get the Kane scholarship, she's just not going to get to go to Stanford isn't totally, like, making sense to me. She could just take out a loan. Like, it sucks to have to pay it back, but I feel like she could do it. And so she's behaving as if this one girl is in the way of her getting to go to school. And it's like, really, she's in the way of you getting to go to school comfortably. But even so, Stanford is a lot of money. And I'm not sure exactly how much this scholarship is for. And let's see, Nancy says, same scholarship from season 1 with Sabria Fuller and Harrison Cho, whose dad hired Vinny to hassle her. Right, yeah. So Veronica and Angie they've been kind of neck and neck this whole time, with Veronica slightly in the lead. And then it turns out that Angie has pulled ahead of Veronica because she took a semester of a program called Summer at Sea, which is considered a college-level course, and inches her ahead of Veronica in terms of the amount of credit that she gets for having taken this class. And she tries to say something about how Veronica could have taken the class also and not been beaten, so it's kind of on her that she didn't. And Veronica points out that, like, you paid a fucking fortune for that summer class. There is no way that somebody is going to be able to beat you out for a class when they don't have the money that you have, which boils down to she's rich and will win no matter what Veronica does, which is deeply, deeply fucked up, and also exactly how the world works all the time. Like, I have talked about it a few times on different shows, just like the SATs. We talk about standardized tests and the fact that everybody's taking the same test and act as if that means that it's all a fair shake for everyone. But setting aside the very real fact that people all have brains that work in totally different ways and standardized testing does not make sense, when we look at just the ways in which people with money and those without deal with the SATs, there is absolutely no way that somebody who comes from a lower income background is going to be prepared for the SATs the way that somebody with a higher income will be. And when I was in school, the number of kids that were taking like after school SAT prep classes, getting a one-on-one tutoring, and who got to take the SATs multiple times as well in order to be able to send in their top score to colleges when they applied. I was so jealous. I got to take the SATs once, and it was like, I think the fee was like $50, which at the time was plenty. It wasn't like I could just take it as many times as I wanted. And I didn't get any SAT prep. Even the workbooks to prep for the SATs were extremely expensive. And like nowadays, there are websites that you can go to and you can take, practice exams and whatever. And the accessibility of this information and this prep is a lot easier. But when I was in school, that just wasn't a thing quite yet. And I just look back at the way in which rich kids got just so much practice in and so much insider information on how questions were structured and the way to like figure out what was likely the answer, that we just, if you weren't part of that fucking income bracket, you didn't get. So this whole thing is just so like hard to watch because this is precisely how this shit fucking goes. Let's see. Oh, Anya says, maybe Rachel, that's why Veronica needs that scholarship. Rachel says that was my assumption. Oh, sorry. Rachel said something earlier. I mean, I went to an expensive college back in the 2000s, got a partial scholarship, and I still had to get 2 loans every year. If I hadn't gotten a partial scholarship, there's no way I could even have gotten that much money in loans. Okay. Yeah, well, I was saying that Stanford's super expensive. So I guess that makes sense, is that like she realizes that without a loan to take the brunt off of her, she wouldn't even qualify for loans in the amount that she would need, which is true. Like I went to Carnegie Mellon for 1 year. It was $45,000 for the year, $22,000 or $21,000 and change for the semester. And I got half scholarship, half tuition scholarship for 4 years. I got the Andrew Carnegie scholarship. And I'm still paying for that 1 year of school. Like, I am. It was a disaster. So that makes sense. This girl. So it turns out Veronica's father is coming into school. Oh, you know what? I want to jump back a little bit because I'm going to be talking about Angie again a little bit later. But she's asking Logan about Lucky, and when he's like talking about like the fact that she did meet Lucky one time, we see him. He's surprisingly young looking, like because he is out of college. Or out of high school. I just pictured him being a lot older, which doesn't make any sense. But he says to Logan over Veronica's shoulder in this memory, "Come on, Logan, the ball's in our court and someone's got to pay. But after we make someone pay, we're going to get high and play Halo, right?" says Dick. And the dude turns to him and says, "Get it together, Dick." And Lucky says to Logan, 90 seconds, be there. And Logan tells him, "I'll be there when I'll be there," and closes the window in the guy's face. And Lucky seems extremely irritated with the attitude that he's taking. So I don't know what to make of this, because when I first watched it, I was assuming that this was like right before the bus crash. And then I remembered that Veronica and Logan are broke up, and she is with Duncan by the time of the bus crash. So there's not a clear timeline for me, and I don't know what it is that he could be referring to. But he sounds crazy. Like, I don't like the sound of this at all. I don't know if this was like him having a feud with PCHers or with like other kids in the school, or if it was a totally outside of school thing. And if it's a totally outside of school thing, Why the hell is Logan and Dick even involved? I don't know. Oh, Anya says maybe when they torched the public pool. Maybe. I forgot about all of that, like, back and forth that was happening earlier on. But yeah, like, it's just a weird memory that I am surprised, Veronica, like, the tone that this guy took and the way he was talking, she doesn't really ask any questions in this memory, and I am just like, that feels out of character. But maybe she was just a little bit digmatized at the moment, and so didn't really, like, want to ask. But, so, okay, jumping ahead to her dad, it turns out that he is being assigned this case by the principal, who has a suspicion that the kids that are getting told that they can get extensions on their tests or get extra time to do homework or get excused from exams altogether, that this is bullshit. They're all being, like, given this okay by the same doctor's office around the same time when they've never had these issues in the past, and it feels really suspicious to him. And what they're being diagnosed with is generalized anxiety disorder. Which, hi, my name is Natasha, and I'm probably somebody who has that, but who knows? So, this series of scenes, her father is on these, like, mini dates where it's like speed dating at this cafe, and he's meeting all of these different women and talking to them about what they do. And it seems like he's just dating. But then it turns out that he is looking for a specific woman who works at this doctor's office. And when he figures out where this is, he has Veronica go in, and she asks for, well, she goes in and they tell her that for $1,000, they will give her the diagnosis of generalized anxiety disorder so that she doesn't have to do her, homework or go to the classes or anything the way that she's supposed to. So this is a kind of an interesting thing, because usually when her dad is on a case, we wind up following him along as he figures it out. But this is set up very differently, where we don't know exactly what he's looking into until almost the whole thing is over. And it's so, so funny to me, because he winds up, like, going to the principal in order to tell him that he has succeeded in his task. And Veronica is hidden in the coat closet in the principal's office when her father comes in and goes to get his coat, and he finds her in there. And it is just so funny to me. Like, so yeah, I love the moment where he sees her in there and just gets this look on his tape. Like, oh God, really? Yeah. Generalized anxiety disorder for $1,000 consultation fee. How did you get this? Painfully. You've got to kiss a lot of toads before you find your medical office manager. So this winds up fucking over Angie, who had the lead because of her GPA. She thinks that she can go to this next class and be able to sit out the exam because she worked so hard on her egg drop project that she didn't have time to study for it. So she's just like, yeah, whatever, I'll just get out of it. And then she is, like, sitting there just reading a magazine while everybody else is taking the exam. And her teacher comes and drops the exam on the table as an announcement comes over the airwaves that they will no longer be accepting any excuses for not doing this stuff. And like, it is a very satisfying moment because you know that Angie is full of shit and this is garbage. But also, can't help but wonder if there isn't a student that genuinely needed this that is getting screwed because people are fucked over, like, and taking advantage. And that sucks so much. But let's pretend nobody really had it. Everybody was taking advantage and they are all getting their comeuppance at the same moment. And that's pretty good. So, all right, let's talk about, there's a couple different like stories that come up. We have the thing with Dick and him like sleeping with this girl, Rhonda. We have Dick squirting one of the PCHers like $200 jeans with bleach, which like that really was a blow when I heard about what was going on there. I was just like, God damn, because he is saying like, you know, oh, he just came in and squirted him with a squirt gun and the guy got irritated. And I definitely was like, yeah, well, that's annoying, but like, it's not that big a deal, is it? And then it turns out that it was bleach and not water. And I was like, that is fucked up. I would be so livid, y'all. Oh my God. You just don't even know. So Veronica goes to talk to Rhonda's sister, who is pulling out of the school parking lot in a fucking vet. And she notices that this girl is like not somebody who had money like very recently, and is wondering what the fuck happened. And I think it's Wallace who tells her that her mother wound up settling with Mr. Goodman's, like, he owns a chain of restaurants apparently. And she found a finger in her sandwich and sued, and she got like a bunch of money. But Veronica, in one of her dreams, is confronted by the kid who was gay, Peter, I think his name is. And initially she thinks that maybe there was something going on between him and Wu, but she goes and questions Wu, and Wu's like, no, girl, you're barking up the wrong tree. I'm not gay. And I wouldn't be involved with a student. I'm not an idiot. Which I liked that scene a lot. He is extremely direct, and I really want more of him, to be honest. And the kid tells her, maybe you should wonder why me, a dude who was not at all interested in sports, was going to a sporting event or a sports-centric field trip in the first place. And my theory is that that moment between Goodman and Logan was very significant. That Woody is gay. Potentially, I don't think that he's a straight up pedophile, but this kid was probably underage, so he's at least a complete sleazebag. And that Rhonda's family was blackmailing him, and they knew about it. And him, that like footage that he had, that was of the inside of his house, was them letting him know that they had film of him with an underage dude, and he's married and running for mayor, and it was just going to fucking blow him up. So he paid them off. But then maybe they weren't done, and they were pushing for more money or more who knows what power. And he decided to do away with the girl who was blackmailing him, or the dude who was blackmailing him. But Rhonda was also on the bus. So it's a combination of the kid who knew that he was involved with getting wiped off the map, and then Rhonda being hurt and him being like to her family, hey, so you know how you all thought you wanted to play? Well, guess what? I am not joking. I will kill y'all. Here goes one. Do you want to lose both your daughters? And I don't know. That's like, because there's not, the main thing for me has been, how do you kill a whole bus full of people for one person? That's the part that I've been hung up on. It's like somebody wanted all of those kids dead, Or somebody wanted one person dead so bad that they were willing to kill a bus full of people to do it, which is also bonkers. If there are two students with the power to blackmail a dude in a huge position of power, that would do it. I could see that. There might even be an additional person on there who knows something. Who knows, But so that's my theory, and that's where they got this money from. They're saying that it's like a settlement with the restaurant, but it's totally blackmail money. And, I don't know. We'll see. But, I have had like a vibe from Woody Goodman from the start that he seemed extremely untrustworthy and borderline creepy. So I am hopeful that my instincts were right and that they cast really well. But I guess I will have to wait and see. I think there's another episode just next week. I hate the Google Calendar thing. But maybe not, actually. I don't think there is another until the week after, I believe. But, stay tuned, y'all, because I'm extremely interested to see what happens here. And I can't tell, because of the way the episode ends, whether or not Veronica is putting those pieces together also. But Veronica didn't see the way that Woody Goodman was with Logan. And that is really what has caused me to make this connection. So I don't know if she has the information she needs to put those pieces together yet. She may have to talk to Logan or like hear a rumor or something. So yeah, that's that. But thank you guys all so much for coming and hanging out and chatting with me. Thank you to Nancy for commissioning this episode and for commissioning it as a voyeur, which is always super fun. And I appreciate y'all so much. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will be seeing you soon with a new episode. So until then, toodaloo, motherfuckers. A long time ago, we used to be friends, but I haven't thought of you lately at all. Come on now, sugar, bring it on, yeah. Just remember me when we used to be friends. A long time ago, we used to be friends.
That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.